Hello, everyone. Let's talk about beauty. Not the kind that fades, not the kind you can filter or edit. I'm talking about real beauty. The kind you feel, the kind that changes a room when you walk into it, not because of the way you look, but because of the energy you bring. You see, we've been taught to see beauty in narrow ways, in magazine covers and curated images. But real beauty, authentic beauty, is something deeper. It's who you are when no one's watching. So today I want to share with you 9 signs that you are a truly beautiful woman, and none of them involve a mirror. We live in a culture that often teaches us to compete, to win attention, affection, or approval. But the beautiful woman understands something deeper, that true connection is never a race. It's a circle, one where we take turns holding space for each other. She walks into a room and instead of commanding it with ego, she fills it with warmth. People feel seen in her presence, not smaller, not less than. They feel bigger, bolder, more than self. The woman who lifts others up doesn't do it for recognition. She does it because she remembers what it felt like to be overlooked, dismissed, or doubted. And she decided that if she ever had the chance, she'd never let someone else feel that way. So she makes people feel capable, important, valuable. There's a quiet grace in the way she encourages. It's not loud or performative. It might be a few words at the right time, a text that says, "I believe in you," a smile that says, "You belong," or simply the way she listens. Truly listens without needing to respond or fix. Because lifting others up isn't always about giving advice. Sometimes it's just about giving someone your presence, your time, your attention. That's rare, and it's powerful. And here's the irony. The woman who lifts others up often doesn't see how beautiful that makes her. She's too busy rooting for everyone else. But everyone around her sees it. They feel it. Her presence lingers even after she's gone. Because she didn't just pass through, she poured into people. She left them better. That's the kind of beauty we don't talk about enough. The kind that doesn't age, fade, or need validation. The kind that transforms relationships, workplaces, families. She's the reason someone kept going. She's the one people call when they forget who they are, because she reminds them. And the world needs more of that. We need more women who see someone struggling and don't turn away, who share the mic, who clap when others win, who know that leadership isn't about being above others, it's about lifting others up to stand beside you. So if you're that woman, if you walk through life lifting, encouraging, and empowering others, you are more beautiful than you know. Not because of what you wear or how you look, but because of how you make people feel about themselves when you're around. There is a quiet, unwavering strength in a woman who knows her worth. Not just in the surface sense of self-esteem, but in a deeper rooted way, like a tree that knows it belongs in the ground. She isn't loud about it. She doesn't have to be. It shows in how she carries herself, how she speaks, and more importantly, how she chooses to walk away from things that don't honor who she is. When a woman truly knows her worth, she stops negotiating with people who never had the right to bargain. She no longer feels the need to over-explain her decisions, apologize for her standards, or chase after people who offer only fragments of affection. She understands something most people miss, that love, respect, and dignity are not earned through begging. They are aligned with authenticity. If someone cannot see her value, it's not her job to convince them. It's her responsibility to keep moving. The beautiful thing is, this kind of self-worth doesn't come from ego, it comes from experience. Usually, a woman doesn't arrive at this place without having once lost herself. She's been there. Giving too much, shrinking too often, saying yes when her heart whispered no. She remembers what it felt like to pour from an empty cup, to wait for validation like rain in a drought. But somewhere along the way, she realized that waiting for someone else to see her value was the same as forgetting her own. So she stopped begging, she stopped bending, she learned to say no without guilt, to walk away without drama, and to love herself without condition. That's what makes her radiant. Not arrogance, not perfection, but clarity. She knows who she is, what she stands for, and what she will no longer tolerate. And that kind of certainty is magnetic. It's in the way she sets boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect her peace. It's in the way she doesn't chase attention because she knows attention isn't the same as affection. It's in how she shows up in relationships, not to be saved or completed, but as someone already whole. She's not looking to be chosen, she's looking to be aligned. This kind of woman doesn't stay where she's tolerated, she goes where she's celebrated. She doesn't play small to fit in rooms not meant for her. She knows she brings value just by showing up as herself, unfiltered, unpolished, and real. And people around her sense it. They may not always understand it, but they feel it. It's in her presence, in the way she doesn't try too hard. It's in her grace and how she lets go of what isn't meant for her without bitterness. That is power. That is beauty. And maybe the most remarkable thing, she inspires others to do the same. By knowing her worth, she gives silent permission for others to explore their own. She doesn't just raise her standards, she raises the frequency of every space she enters. She reminds people that it's okay to want more, to ask for better, to walk away when something doesn't feel right. Because knowing your worth isn't about superiority, it's about alignment, it's about choosing peace over approval, and that choice, that clarity, is what defines a beautiful woman. Not the clothes she wears, not the compliments she collects, but the way she holds herself when no one's clapping, the way she still believes in her value when it's not being validated. She knows her worth. So she doesn't beg, she simply becomes. And that in itself is beautiful. Kindness isn't weakness. In fact, it's one of the strongest, most courageous things a woman can lead with. It's easy to be defensive. It's easy to guard your heart, to meet the world with armor and a sharp tongue. But to lead with kindness, that takes strength most people underestimate. It takes intention. It takes the ability to stand in the middle of a fast, competitive, often cold world and choose warmth. A beautiful woman doesn't let ego lead her. She doesn't walk into a room needing to be the center of attention. She's not trying to outshine or outdo. She doesn't operate from a place of scarcity where someone else's success feels like her failure. No, she leads with kindness because she knows who she is and she doesn't need to prove it to anyone. Her presence is steady, calm, inviting. People feel safe around her, not because she's perfect, but because she's genuine. You can feel the difference. When someone's ego is running the show, you feel tension. But when kindness is in the lead, you feel connection. And that's what makes her so impactful. She connects, not controls. She influences, not intimidates. She leaves people better than she found them. Not because she has to, but because it's who she is. That doesn't mean she lets people walk all over her. That's the misconception. Kindness doesn't mean being a doormat. In fact, she's deeply rooted in her values. She sets boundaries. She says no. But she does it with grace, with respect. She doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't need to belittle to feel powerful. Her kindness is not performative, it's principled. You can hear it in the way she speaks. She's thoughtful. She listens. She doesn't dominate a conversation just to sound smart. She asks questions. She sees people. She remembers names, notices moods, gives compliments without waiting for one back. That might seem small, but that's the kind of thing people remember. Not what she wore or what she posted, but how she made them feel. She leads with kindness because she's been through things. She's known heartbreak, insecurity, maybe even rejection, but she didn't let those things make her bitter. She let them make her better. Instead of building walls, she built empathy. Instead of acting out of pain, she learned how to show compassion. And that growth, that decision to stay soft in a world that rewards hardness, it's rare. That's beautiful. She's not chasing likes or applause. She's chasing alignment. She wants to do work that matters, build relationships that feel real, and show up in ways that reflect her truth. That's why her leadership, whether in a workplace, a family, or a friendship, feels different. It's not about hierarchy, it's about humanity. She lifts people up beside her. And even when she's tired, even when she's disappointed, she still chooses kindness. Not because it's easy, but because she knows it's who she wants to be. That doesn't mean she doesn't get angry. That doesn't mean she doesn't have bad days. But her default isn't defensiveness, it's empathy. Her reaction isn't criticism, it's curiosity. And that's what makes people trust her, follow her, love her. You won't always remember what she said, but you'll remember that she looked you in the eye and truly listened, that she gave without keeping score, that she led without pushing. And in a world full of noise, that kind of quiet, consistent kindness, that's not just beautiful, that's transformational. There's something rare and incredibly beautiful about a woman who is comfortable in silence. She doesn't rush to fill the empty spaces with noise. She doesn't feel the need to perform, impress, or constantly entertain. She knows that not everything needs words. Not every moment needs commentary. Sometimes presence is enough. Silence doesn't make her uncomfortable because she's made peace with herself. She doesn't fear the quiet. She doesn't see stillness as a threat. In fact, she sees it as a gift. That kind of presence, that ability to just be without needing to prove or persuade, that's someone who's cultivated a relationship with her own soul. In a world where we're constantly encouraged to keep moving, keep posting, keep talking, a woman who can sit quietly, who can breathe and listen, and simply exist, is someone who knows who she is. She's not trying to outrun her thoughts. She's not afraid of being alone with them. She welcomes the stillness because that's where she recharges, where she connects with her own truth. She's not the loudest in the room, but when she speaks, people listen, not because she demands attention, but because her words carry weight. They come from a place of intention. She speaks when she has something meaningful to say, and that makes her voice all the more powerful. Silence for her isn't empty. It's full of awareness, of reflection, of understanding. She's not scanning for approval or seeking to avoid awkwardness. She's grounded. She's fully present. And that presence brings calm to others. It allows them to exhale, to slow down, to feel safe. Because when someone is comfortable in their own silence, they give others permission to be comfortable too. She knows that relationships aren't built only through words. Sometimes sitting quietly beside someone is the most profound form of connection. No expectations, no pressure, just being. That level of peace, that kind of comfort, most people don't realize how rare it is until they experience it. She's also not easily shaken. Her ability to embrace silence means she doesn't react impulsively. She takes her time, she observes, she reflects, she lets things settle before responding. That kind of self-control doesn't come from apathy, it comes from wisdom. It comes from years of learning that not every situation needs a reaction, not every problem needs immediate fixing, and not every challenge needs to be fought out loud. She's not afraid of the space between moments. She understands that clarity often lives in the pause, that silence can be a teacher. It can show us who we are beneath the noise. It can help us hear things we'd otherwise miss, both in others and in ourselves. And maybe the most beautiful thing about her is this: she's not trying to be anything other than what she is. She doesn't perform for approval or manufacture energy just to meet someone's expectations. She doesn't need constant conversation to feel close. She values depth over volume. And she trusts that those who are meant for her, friends, partners, colleagues, will understand that. In a world that constantly pushes for more words, more noise, more action, she chooses presence. She chooses peace. She chooses silence when silence says more than speech ever could. And in that stillness, she radiates something truly rare. Not a beauty you can capture in a photo, not a charm that fades when the lights go down, but a quiet, steady strength that stays, that grounds, that inspires. That kind of woman doesn't need the world to validate her. She has already validated herself, and that, more than anything, is what makes her beautiful. There is a deep and undeniable beauty in a woman who expresses herself with honesty. She doesn't bottle things up to make others more comfortable. She doesn't play small with her emotions or mute her truth just to avoid rocking the boat. She feels deeply, speaks with clarity, and lives with intention. And it's not because she wants attention or praise. It's because she understands that suppression is not strength. Expression is. For a long time, she may have been taught to stay quiet, to be nice, to avoid being too much. Maybe she was told that vulnerability was weakness, or that being emotional made her dramatic. So she learned early on how to shrink, how to keep the peace by keeping things in. But after a while, that kind of silence turns heavy. It begins to wear on the soul because you can only suppress yourself for so long before something inside starts to fade. She eventually reached a turning point, not all at once, but slowly. She began to realize that her feelings weren't problems to solve, but signals to listen to. That her emotions weren't obstacles to overcome, but messages with meaning. And she started to trust her inner voice, to say what she needed to say, to feel what she needed to feel. Now she chooses to express instead of suppress, not recklessly, not carelessly, but courageously. She knows how to have honest conversations. She can speak her mind without cruelty. She can share her disappointment, her hopes, her joy, her pain, not to hurt anyone, not to seek validation, but because self-expression is part of self-respect. She no longer bottles things up just to make others happy. If something matters to her, she honors it. If something hurts her, she acknowledges it. And if something inspires her, she shares it freely. She's learned that open expression isn't about controlling others. It's about freeing herself. It's about giving her truth the space it deserves. This kind of emotional honesty doesn't mean she's always talking. It means when she does speak, it's real, it's thoughtful, it's felt. She's not afraid of tears, of hard conversations, of uncomfortable truths, because she knows that healing doesn't happen in silence. Growth doesn't happen in denial, and connection doesn't happen behind a mask. The people around her feel it too. They trust her not because she's perfect, but because she's real. They know where they stand with her. There's no guessing, no games, no pretending, just presence, just honesty, just the kind of emotional safety that only comes from someone who's done the work to be honest with herself first. And the most powerful part, she gives others permission to do the same. When she shares her story, people open up about theirs. When she says, "I'm not okay," she shows others that they don't have to be either. Her vulnerability becomes a bridge. Her openness becomes a gift. This doesn't mean she's emotional all the time. It means she's emotionally honest. It means she can sit with joy and sadness, hope and fear, all without shame. It means she can say, "I love you," without playing it cool. That hurt me without lashing out. I need space without guilt. And that kind of communication, that kind of maturity, that's beautiful beyond measure. She expresses, she doesn't suppress. And because of that, she breathes easier, lives lighter, loves deeper, and walks through the world with a kind of freedom most people spend their whole lives chasing. That is not weakness. That is not drama. That is not too much. That is self-awareness. That is courage. That is emotional leadership. A woman who uplifts other women instead of competing with them carries a beauty that can't be touched by trends, titles, or appearances. It's not the kind of beauty you notice instantly. It's the kind that reveals itself in how she moves through the world, in how she celebrates others without dimming herself, in how she shows up with a full heart, knowing that another woman's light doesn't make hers any less bright. This isn't always easy. Society has spent decades, centuries really, conditioning women to compare, to see one another as threats, to believe there are limited seats at the table, and if someone else gets one, you've somehow lost your chance. The messaging has been subtle but relentless. Thinner is better, quieter is safer, prettier is more valuable, and smarter must be disguised. All of it designed to pit women against each other in an invisible battle. No one wins. But a woman who sees through that illusion, she's powerful. She's free. She's done playing that game. She knows that someone else's success doesn't take anything away from her. In fact, it inspires her. It fuels her. She claps when another woman wins because she knows it's possible to be proud of someone else and still be proud of herself. She doesn't feel threatened by beauty, talent, or intelligence in others. She's drawn to it. Because she's done the work to understand her own worth. She's no longer relying on comparison to feel secure. She doesn't need to be the only one shining in the room. She'd rather help light the whole room up. And when she sees a woman struggling, she doesn't look away or stay silent. She reaches out. She encourages. She supports without expecting anything in return, not because she needs the credit, but because she remembers what it felt like to doubt herself. She remembers being underestimated, overlooked, or doubted, and she knows how life-changing one kind word can be, how powerful a genuine "I see you, keep going" can feel. She builds bridges, not walls. She mentors, she collaborates, she shares the space. Whether she's in a leadership role or just leading by example, she knows that true power multiplies when it's shared. She's not just focused on her own climb, she's holding the ladder steady for others too. And she does it with grace, with joy, and with zero need to be the hero. You'll see it in the way she compliments without envy, in the way she listens without judgment, in how she genuinely wants to see others win. That's rare, that's real, and that's a reflection of a woman who has found peace within herself. She knows that competition might produce results, but community produces legacy, that we rise faster when we rise together. So instead of stepping on others to get ahead, she builds something better beneath them. A foundation made of encouragement, respect, and honesty. The truth is, beauty rooted in confidence doesn't fear other women, it empowers them. It wants to illuminate. It wants to illuminate. A woman like this becomes a safe space, a source of energy. She becomes the kind of person others are drawn to, not just for what she does, but for how she makes them feel. She doesn't compete, she contributes. She doesn't compare, she connects. And in doing so, she redefines what it means to be beautiful. Because real beauty isn't about being above others, it's about lifting others up as you rise. And when a woman chooses to do that with consistency, with humility, and with heart, there's nothing more radiant than that.